Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Ermenkov. I'm a ruling reality coach. Today is 13th of March, 2023, and I'm continuing my series, Daily Reality with Alex. Today, I would like to share something which is, of course, very obvious, but it is very important for me, and it is something that is really one of the most important thing that we are to keep in our mindfulness, of course, together with the generating energy of the heart. So I would like to present to you and to speak to you about my thought processes and about the reality of thinking. Reality is separated, of course, in several realms, and the thinking and the thoughtfulness and the mindfulness is a separate part of our structure as a human being, and it is different from the brain. It is the so-called our software, but also it is very important for all of us to understand what is happening with our thinking processes, where the thoughts comes from, why they're generated, why exactly these thoughts, and so on and so on. But let me start with a story. I remember it was somewhere in 2010 when I was returning from a flight from India, and in Moscow, one guy from Indian origin sat next to us, and we started talking with him. We were two Bulgarians and to him, and we started talking from the flight from Moscow to Sofia. And what happened to be, he was not actually Indian, he was a Pakistani, he had a wife, he had an apartment in London, and he was teaching in a university in China, and also he was working for the European Union, something. So he was a very cosmopolitan type of a person. But what took my attention was that while we were talking, almost every second minute, he was saying, well, Alex, what you are saying now is according to this book. What you are thinking now is according to this book. What you are expressing now is according to this concept which is written in this book. So this was a very educated person that have read so many books, and then I was very strongly into different type of conspiracy theory, where I was thinking only that the governments are ruling this planet and so on and so on, and secret societies and so on and so on. But he was all the time just telling every statement we made about politics, about geography, about philosophy, about economics, every statement that came out of my mind, he was citing the book from where this type of thoughts were in my head. So to this moment, I was thinking that everything in my mindfulness is something that is genuine mine. But then I started to realize that actually more of the time we as human beings are constantly retranslating things that are not 100% our genuine thinking. And of course, we are to understand what is even beyond thinking, because before we start thinking, there are processes, there are patterns that are creating specific logical streams of thinking and specific logical streams of thoughts. And what I realized from this moment forward is that there is a freedom battle going for the mind of all of us as beings. Because maybe 90 to 90% of the time, everything that is in our head is generated from somebody else. And I'm not sure, because I cannot explore it or prove it, but it is possible that even 100% of everything that we're thinking has already been generated, and we are just constantly retranslating. And then the big question is, Alex, but where is then my free thinking processes? I don't know if you remember during COVID, when people realized that actually the patent for the main virus was patented from Bill Gates, and everybody was just very angry that someone is starting to patent things that we think that actually they are part of the common good. Is there a common good that belongs to nobody in the mindfulness realm? Or is there a fight? Is there a race in the mindfulness realm also for who is possessing and who is owner of any specific thoughts? Of course, when we go into this direction, we are to understand that before the thought processes come into our realm, we have the patterns that are creating the specific processes of thoughtfulness. And these type of patterns are sometimes called archetypes. And these archetypal patterns are creating specific thinking, and the archetypes are coming into our imagination and into our thinking processes from the ancient storytelling till today. That's why more of the programming of how the minds are going to think is coming from the storytellings that have created specific constructs in the mind. So we are thinking only in these specific ways and no other. But now what's the problem with the thoughts in general? Thoughts are not reality. Yes, we have heard that thoughts are part of the creation of reality, but basically thoughts are just the imprints of what reality actually is. Through the thought constructs, through the thought processes, we can create different maps, structures that are possible to some extent to explain what is not explainable. While we are here in this realm of existence, we are never to understand what is the beyond. We are only partially understanding what is happening in the beyond realm. But since we are constantly participating and are part of this realm, it is important to know what type of maps and concept processes we are using, why we are using them, and are they actually making us imprisoned to a specific type of thinking. And then it's up to us to decide what type of imprisonment of thought processes we are going to accept for our personal reality in order to generate the specifics that we actually want. And for me, this is a very interesting realm. It is very broad. And what I noticed during my 3 years of personal development experience and different type of programming mindset type of thinking is that actually they are creating some type of specific thought processes, but then there occurs one more problem with them. And what I noticed when I was in one-year program that costed more than $10,000 is that actually every second or third thought sentence or thought structure was actually patented with a trademark. During this time, I was participating also in another program, and I knew the inventor of this program, and I asked him, okay, I'm now participating in another program where actually every second or third thought process is patented. In your program, do you use patents, and what is the reason for patents, and why everything is created in the way it's created, why everyone is so strongly striving towards patent in the mindfulness realm, and everybody is trying just to patent his own thought process and structure. Of course, we had different conversations during time, but what I'm realizing little by little, that there is a race going on for our minds. And in this race that is going on, it's very important. Are we able to be genuine thinkers, or are we just going to be using free, pre-approved, recreated, fabricated for us thought processes? Of course, from the perspective of the mindfulness and mindset training, which allegorically looks like fitness training for the corporate body structure, if we are using specific tools created from someone else for us for building our structure of mindfulness, we are to understand also what are we losing. Because personally, I have decided back in the year 2001 that I have committed and dedicated my personal life, my personal expression, my personal heart to the Lord Jesus Christ and to Christianity in its most pure form. And based on this, in a sense, I have already dedicated my freedom of choice to the imprisonment of the concepts that are created through the Christianity thinking. And that's why through more of my life, these thoughts, generational processes are creating my life experience. But of course, all of us have freedom of choice to what type of thought imprisonment we are going to dedicate our lives. But if we are thinking that there is freedom of thought, then we are to go strongly inside of ourselves and start educing something genuine and something that is coming out of our heart, and we are to stop using or to know that when we are using specific paths, because in your mind, if you think for a second, there are specific ways of thinking, streams of understanding, logically put one after another, that we the human beings are calling theories, worldviews that we are constantly using. But a lot of time, for example, in today's Western society, more of the thinking is based on the Plato philosophy, which came out of the secret circles of their teachings, which were taken out from the Zoroastrians and the Persian religions. So in the ancient times, maybe the most important part was which type of concept and structures creating of the thought processes are any human beings going to use. And in order this type of thought processes to be preserved only for specific people that are going to give them long-term advantages, the secret societies were created in order this type of thinking and thought processes to be used only from specific groups And that's why they created the so-called exoteric expressions, but also they have inner circle of understanding and meaning that is behind the real words. So actually, little by little, humanity created exoterical type of thinking processes and esoterical inner type of circle thinking, which is giving much more meaning and understanding of what is said for the outer reality. Since I have already dedicated to an open circle of mindfulness called Christianity, and long term, I'm not willing to dedicate myself to any type of thought processes that are specifically to some types of elite and inner circles. What I'm more and more realizing that instead of using some type of already created processes, it's much more better to go to the ancient text and to understand what was the base for what is now trying to be patented all over the mindfulness space in the moment. Of course, we can say, but Alex, whatever was created from someone, it's his own patent. Can we patent the invisible realm? Can we patent the beyond? Are we able to fight in our mindfulness states for what is out there for all of the humanity to enjoy? But this is why, and this is the reason patent exists, because the people that were first to penetrate or to understand or to conceptualize a specific knowledge were to be rewarded. And to some extent, this is quite good, but from the perspective of the developing of a person and of a human being, we are constantly bombarded with proposition, use my specific processes, use my specific programs, use my trademarked programs, and so on and so on. And we are going to come to a time in the next 20 years where maybe we are also going to pay for our thinking processes, because if we are expressing some type of a patented type of reality, which somebody else has patented, these thought processes, you are going to pay 100% to him. So for me, this is a very interesting information, because from the moment I started to work with this type of programs, the only thing I was doing all the time is to question everything that was stated there for me. Of course, long-term, I understood about this type of long-term agendas that are hidden before and all this structured type of thinking we are proposed to go into, because it's going to create for us specific type of shortcuts. Because I have already chosen to work strongly with the ancient book of the Bible, and I see how many of these so-called personal development programmers, which are actually programming our minds of thinking into specific way of expressions, are using a lot of the ancient teachings, and actually we are turning more and more ourselves and our societies into soft religion type of beings. And more of us can identify themselves like atheists, like very soft spiritual guys, whatever we want to say, But anyhow, it is not possible without being religious. And why the religiousness is very important in a sense, and I'm first not denying it, I'm using it daily in my reality. It is helping me a lot because reality is created in such a way that it is not possible to live reality only in the horizontal plane of experience without understanding the above and how the above is affecting the plane of experience where we think that we are alone, and with our mind, with our intent, with our thoughts, with our vocalizing, we are able alone to rule in this reality. And that's why I'm strongly developing, and I have never stopped to go forward and to open myself towards my God, my creator, my savior, because this is the only thing that is saving me from all these type of different thought processes of deviation that are constantly being patented and are constantly being protected, and anyhow their long-term fruits are also very discussable because we are living in a society where nothing can be measured according to the absolutes. And this is why I decided to position myself as a ruling reality coach, where I'm constantly working with myself upon understanding reality while we are here on this planet. Because for myself personally, I have already given myself to the beyond. I know what I'm expecting. I know my end. I know my afterlife. But I realized how important for all of us is now, during this reality, to really interact, to really experience it, and to really understand all the broadness, all the possibilities, all the probabilities of what is. And this is why I enjoy being interactive. I enjoy even being provocative. I enjoy being a person that has its own stand. And yes, I'm standing for freedom of choice to anyone to decide what type of thinking processes he is going to use and to what type of concepts of mind, thinkfulness, and mindfulness he is going to enslave his mind to. But the most important thing is long-term. For me personally, is to know and to see how reality is validating my choices. Am I lifted up into reality? Am I validated? Am I approved? Am I trustworthy from the higher forces? And am I correctly interacting with what is? This is much more important than proving myself, than defending myself, than trying to project, because what is important for all of us is to know reality as it is, because then the choices that we are able to make, or the choices that are still possible and probable before all of us, are to be seen. Because when we move through reality, every choice we make enslaves us into a particular area. Once we have wife, once we have children, it creates responsibility. Once we create companies, it creates responsibility. Once we start implementing big and huge visions, with them comes more and more enslavement of our energy toward our specific flows that we are creating. That's why it's up to us all to decide, are we ready? Are we willing to be interactional beings in reality? And to what extent we are willing and able to sacrifice ourselves as servants of the all, of servants of what is beneficial for all. And many times, what is beneficial for all is much more different than what society is telling that is beneficial for all. Because according to society, what is beneficial for all of us is to think what is already prepared and cooked and tested. In order we to be in a thinking processes that are already enslaving us and that are already very programmable and are very predictable all the time. But the human being is an adaptive machine, and it is up to us to decide to what are we going to attach ourselves and to what extent, and if we are going to use the already walked paths, or are we able to allow ourselves to start walking forward into the unwalked paths without seeing, without knowing where are we going and what are the results going to be. So this is what is my expression regarding how I'm using my thought processes, what is my course towards which absolute I'm validating everything in my mind, and I know that there is a battle for every thought process that I am using. Because more of the times, because we are witnessers, we are actually users of life. We are not creators of the experience. We are most of the time just the users. And that's why it's up to us to decide what type of thought processes, what type of thought concepts are we going to use, but also to know what are the strings attached to everything, because we are entering much more different times where even everything of our thought processes are going to be long-term monitored. So thank you for watching. Enjoy your reality. Strive for exploring what is, and know that only the truth is able to make us free. And of course, we can have different discussions about the truth. And if we have it now in our realm of existence, but for sure, in its absolute form, truth exists. Bye-bye, enjoy your reality, and move forward into your interaction with what is.